Hi, I'm Roy Collin, the host of the podcast. You can find everything about me by scanning the QR code there or going to roycollin.com, and you'll find my 6 podcasts: the Podfather, helping people become podcasters; the Awakening, exposing fraud and corruption but with solutions; the Crypto, all things blockchain technology; meditation podcast, speaking podcast, and the Learn Polish podcast. You can also help the show by actually making a donation, visiting the store, or helping my sponsors. I hope you enjoyed this week's show. Welcome to the Speaking Podcast. You can find all our episodes on speakingpodcast.com. My guest, author of A Story About Pizza. This historical fiction book is an adaptation of the story of her grandfather, who immigrated from Italy to America, working as a coal miner. It follows his lifetime journey of family food and, of course, amazing pizza. She's the CEO of Web Content Development. For the last 18 years, she worked and studied all facets of internet marketing. She has had viral videos that helped her father's business, so we can learn plenty about marketing and pizza. From Tampa, Florida, please welcome Erica De Arcangelo. Did I do it justice today?
No, it was perfect. Thank you. That was great.
Yeah, no problem. I suppose I want to kind of get to know you. But what I'd like to say is, I'm not sure which, I think it was your own website. The video that you have that's kind of promoting the book, it's kind of showing old style stuff and everything, but it's very well done. It's really professional, extremely professional. And it just, I suppose, kind of your whole process in putting that together.
Yeah, absolutely. So we also have a video production company, and my husband made that video for the book. So those are the type of videos that we do, but it's one of my favorite things about the book and the story.
Yeah, no, it's like really captivating. It's like it's excellent. So I mean, like we know we're going to talk about the book, but I want to kind of know a bit about yourself. You mentioned there your mother's Irish, so there's Italian as well in the thing. So you just kind of tell me your roots and then your own kind of journey from the marketing to getting to the book as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of the journey is kind of funny because both my parents were born in Windber, Pennsylvania. So my grandfather, the whole book is about how he immigrated from Abruzzo, Italy. He worked in the coal mines. Then he finally, later in his life, opened a family pizzeria. So on one end of town, which was the east end of Windber, were all the Italians, and it was all the Italian coal miners. And then on the west end of town, you had Irish, Polish, Slovakians, and the Berwin-White Coal Company. They didn't want the two groups of people to meet because at that time there wasn't a union. And there was a lot of bad treatment of the migrant workers. So what ended up happening was that most of the time the Italians married the Italians and, the Irish married the Irish. Well, my parents met and my mom was Irish and Polish. And my dad was 100% Italian, and my parents got married, but my mom was the first non-Italian that had married into my dad's family. Yeah, and then they had 5 kids. So I'm the oldest of the 5, and we're all 2 years apart. So we had a very wild family. We had a lot of kids. We had exchange students. My dad coached sports. He coached basketball. So we always had a full house of people.
And just curious, because when you're kind of looking at that, was your grandfather alive? Did you actually spend time with your grandfather?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So all 5 of us were pretty much born into the pizzeria. My parents worked there. My dad was a school teacher, and my mom and my dad worked there. We were open I think at that time it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because we weren't open on Sundays because my family was Catholic. So Sundays we went to church, we had lunch together. But those days, I think they opened at 3 p.m, my mom, my dad, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, we were all at pizzeria together with my grandparents. My grandfather, I don't think he ever slept. He was up all night, feeding the coal furnace. He was during the day fixing the building. In the afternoons, he was at the pizzeria, making sure the pizzas were perfect, talking to all the people that came in. And he never rested, but we were always there, with my grandparents.
And what was that like kind of growing up in a restaurant setting? Because obviously, your father's there now as well. So what's it like having that as a kind of an upbringing?
I mean, it was interesting because, as kids, we would just sit on the floor and we would play. And my grandparents would just hand us slices of pizza and, whatever they were making that day, that's what we had. And then as we got older, it was like 8 or 9 years old, we were folding boxes and my grandfather would pay us 10 cents a box. And then as we got older, we were allowed to wash dishes and then we were allowed to make pizzas. And then as teenagers, I remember I ran the ovens and my sister ran the cash register and we all worked there. And that was like, it was just a family affair. And then on Sundays, we all went to church. My grandmother made chicken cutlets, meatballs, spaghetti, you name it. We all ate. We all sat around the house on Sundays. And it was just a very, honestly, nice way to grow up.
So you're third generation. Your dad is still kind of running it, is he? Or is he? So who's actually now? Is there any of the kids, his kids, and have any of your children, do they spend time in the place and have they any aspirations of actually getting into the business?
Yeah. So my dad, he was a teacher and he became a high school superintendent. And then he retired. And then after he retired, he works there every day now. Like every day that they're open, he's there. Now he's in Italy right now, but he's goes and he works and talks to people who come in and he runs the place. So it's still family owned and operated. In the summers, my daughter will go and work there. My mom actually started a jam company. And so my daughter she runs the jam company with my mom in the summer. So they pick the fruit, they make the jam, and they sell the jam at the pizza place.
And I'm just curious about the decor then, because obviously your grandfather in the 60s, it would have looked a certain way. Have they kept the style or have they kind of upgraded and modernized the restaurant?
So my grandfather bought the building from Berwin-White Coal Company because at the time they owned almost every building in Windber, PA. And my dad restored the building and the building is so beautiful. It has this like very nice ceiling. There's on the walls we got all the pictures of the family and we have them all hung on the walls. And it's just a very beautiful building and very historic. Like we still have like the old relics and the different memorabilia of when my grandfather was in the coal mines. Like his original hat is there. We have a bunch of signs that were made. We still have the original Pepsi sign that my grandfather had made in, I think, the 70s. And it's lit up again and it's in the front of the building. So we've definitely kept everything the same, but just, I guess, newer.
Thanks. So he was mining, and I mean, especially in them days, that was actually very difficult and very dangerous. So, like, can you remember our conversations from it? And is it, you've gone deep into that in the book about the mining?
Yeah, I mean, my dad told me a lot of it. My grandfather was really quiet. He was very soft-spoken, but he knew everyone. So, he had so many friends. But when my dad had heart surgery and I had gone home, this was probably about, I want to say 5 or 6 years ago. And at the time, my dad was just recovering from surgery. And I said, hey, let's go into the pizza shop. You just recovered from surgery, you need something to do. I said, I'll come in with you. I'll do your marketing. My dad said, I don't believe in marketing. It was funny. I had owned a marketing company, I think for 10 years at the time. I said, okay, well, I'll help you for free. Well, let's just go. So we drive in and he'd tell me all the stories on the way there. And then he would be, helping the kitchen, talking to all the people. And I would just film content. I would go through the pictures. I would film the kitchen. I would, and I just being there and hearing the stories, I became very inspired. Like, I should put this in a book. This is a really good story. My grandfather came from nothing. He came over with his family. They had nothing. He worked in the coal mines for his whole entire life. The mines closed. He needed a way to support his family, and his dream was to open this pizzeria, and he really did it with pretty much no resources.
Yeah, and like when you look at immigration now, because even like sometimes I'm kind of classed as an expat, and then people are immigrant. It's changed a lot, but when you look, like I hear from most of the people in America that they've all come from Germany, from Ireland, from Italy and everything. And then it's got to the stage where it's kind of scary. But at the end of the day, I think it's still kind of like we all hear about the American dream and stuff like that, where you can just come in and you can become, and we hear it all the time. But how have you seen it change? And is it scary now for you when you see so many people coming in? Because it's kind of, it went from normal kind of to, I don't know, the 30 million or something that's reportedly after coming in the last year.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a different way of life now. Like, people came from everywhere to America for a better life. And I think nowadays it's like people want to move to Italy. I feel like from America to get a different life, because the way that America was then versus now was so different.
So your book, because I was looking at the reviews and they're all 4 and 5. There's no negative comments, which is fantastic. They're all right, beautiful thing. I'm not sure
so
that
good.
no. Well, I mean, I always kind of take your levels of 5-10% because that happens in the podcasting, whatever. There's always somebody. But is it that you're giving? Because I don't know where I was reading it, but that you're giving like a recipe as well on each chapter or something like that, or you're.
Yeah, every chapter has a family recipe in it. And it's based on what was happening during that chapter and what was being made during that chapter. And these are recipes that I learned from my father and even from my grandparents growing up.
So I'm just curious because you've got all these fast food chains and, they're just cutting the costs and everything. With like your restaurant, I mean, like people, suffering for IBS and things like that, a lot of the times it's the wheat and everything, or they're just using the ingredients because of the Italian background and the passion, and it stayed in the family. Are you sticking to original roots of kind of quality, and it's what's sticking out compared to the competitors around?
So yeah, so all the recipes at the pizza shop are local. They're from Abruzzo. My dad, created them. My grandfather created them. Even just some of the things that were added, my dad added them from going to Italy and learning about, like, okay, we should add this, or like my aunt used to make this, or my grandmother made this. Like, we do a chicken parm sandwich. We do homemade cutlets. We do a unbrominated, unbleached flour because it's a healthier flour. We still hand grate all the cheese. We grated the cheese by hand since the beginning. So we still freshly grate the cheese. We still use the same sauce and the same spices and the same sauce recipe that my grandfather used. The dough is made fresh every single day. So all of those things are definitely in place. Also, my mom is a master gardener. So at their home, they have, they grow, anything and everything you could think of. So in the summers, we get the tomatoes, we get the zucchini, we get so many of the things from the garden, and we use them there at the restaurant.
Fascinating. And when I was looking at the menu, I was looking at the prices, and because I was looking at some of the videos, I was like, oh, your prices are it's a lot of stuff on your menu that's cheaper than in Poland. So it's actually, for what you've just told me, you're actually not aiming for, like, it's like you're trying to get the locals in and the way that you're doing it.
Yeah, so many of the people that come in there have been coming in there since the very beginning. And it's very beautiful because my dad knows everyone that comes in there. So, people come in and it's, the grandson or the granddaughter of a person who was in there who was friends with my grandfather. Now, since, our TikTok went viral, we have a lot of new people coming in. But even for the new people, my dad sits down, he tells them the story. He might bring them out a free appetizer. And that's just really like, when you go in there, you go in there to eat and the food's amazing, but it's also the experience of just, talking about the culture and the family. And, there's just something special about when you walk in there.
I'm just curious, like when you decided to write this book, what things did you learn that you weren't expecting? Because obviously when you start taking a few layers off or just finding out, there's so much more information that you're glad that you. So I'm just curious what things kind of came up.
So, there were so many different things. Like, I almost did like a first iteration of the book, and then I sat down with my dad and we did interviews, and I even talked to some other family members, and just like, I guess the little stories, especially about like my great grandfather who was, who came over originally. And at the time, in the little town, there was an actual like mafia. Like there were things happening, like there was crime happening in the town. So that was something that I had no idea about. I mean, the struggle was very foreign to me. Like I was very surprised at how badly the miners were treated and how poorly they were paid. And I guess just the evolution of the union and them getting their rights was really a story that was like made me very happy because they came over for a better life, but they didn't really get that better life.
Yeah, because I mean, I was listening to David Icke on one of his shows just the other day, and he was on about his father, and it was a case of when he tried to put a union together, they just fired him straight away. So, like, that's how bad things were. Like, basically, if you said, "Hey, this isn't right," they knew that there was 1,000 people outside the door waiting to get a job. And you know, when people say, "Oh, we're in this together," he said they put their heads down. So that's you kind of learn that people will talk but won't act on it as well. And I think that's kind of similar today with a lot of things going on as well. But yeah, I mean, it was a lot more difficult. Like sometimes we kind of look and we think it's gotten really bad. But then when you hear things like that, or you hear people get an orange for Christmas and they were delighted, and you're going, an orange, you know, we take so much for granted. And we're not talking that long, like, you know, 100 years ago, like, you know, that's how bad it really was.
We in like the waste now. Like I remember my father always being like, my grandfather kept everything. And we were always like not sure why he kept everything. And he kept everything because he had nothing. Like he literally had nothing. So everything that he had, he valued it so much. So I remember when he passed away, he had kept, I mean, everything. So we really had to like go through. Now, the good part about that is we found so many beautiful memories and pictures and different things from his life that we were able to clean up and we can now display in the restaurant.
About my grandmother, she about 9 years ago, she actually passed, and it was like same thing. You know, she went through the war, worked in the war in the UK and everything, and it's like all the stuff she kept, and it was like they were used to the bad times, so they didn't waste anything. Yeah. You know, even collecting all the plastic bags, even though at the time they were free, you know, they charge you for no, but it was like nothing got dumped.
It's true. I mean, even food. I remember the only thing my grandfather ever got upset about was anyone wasting food. It was because they didn't have food. But we had, growing up in a restaurant and my grandparents being Italian, we were just like fed always. Like there was always food. And my grandparents would invite, you know, friends and different family members. Like I remember Christmas Eve, we'd have sometimes 80 people at Christmas Eve because they wanted to make sure that everybody ate.
And so your marketing agency then, I mean, like it kind of ties in because I was looking, I mean, you did get some viral, like your TikTok is, I don't know, what was it, over 314.6 followers and 3.2 million likes, which like that doesn't equate to views. Views could probably put another 2 zeros onto that. Like, so it was basically, there was no way you were expecting it to blow up like that, I presume, was it? You, because I saw some of the ones and it's like, but I was looking at the comments and it was like people, you could tell they were drooling just looking at them cutting the pizza, because it's kind of unique, you know, cutting the squares and just how thick they are compared to usual what you see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I started, you know, filming the content, cutting the pizzas, and I woke up one morning and I had 1 million views on one of my videos, and then continued to post videos, and I think our highest video has 64 million views on TikTok right now. So that TikTok does not stop. We still have people are still watching, you know, a lot of those videos, and it's been really nice because it's really brought like a lot of new people into the shop. And my dad will call, like he usually calls me on the way back in the evening, and he'll say, "Oh, this person saw it on TikTok and they came in and they live here," and he remembers, like he knows like the different people that he talks to each night. So it's really cool to see that happen and to see like new people being able to come in and like eat at the shop and just know the history just from the TikTok.
And I'm just curious, at its peak when it was like exploding, was there queues outside the door at that stage?
Yeah, we've definitely had, I mean, there's still a lot of nights where, you know, my dad will call and he'll be like, "We're slammed. There's a line outside the door. no tables. They ended up opening outside dining in the summer so that they had some more tables to seat people. But it was really cool because, I mean, the shop it's survived it's been now 65 years. And it has survived, but I think over the last like 5 years, I mean, the first year we started the marketing, we doubled, our customer base doubled. And then ever since then, every year it's doubled. So that's been really nice to see because I know it makes my dad proud because it wouldn't be what my grandfather wanted.
And I think, it's based in Florida, yeah,
Pizzeria, it's in Windber, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, okay.
Yeah.
With the craziness that went on in the last few years, because I know I saw, like, with your marketing and everything, some companies just went down. Was that one that allowed them to stay open? Because I think, like, that's why I thought Florida is okay, but if you look at, say, California or whatever, they just shut down everything and destroyed people's livelihoods. So I'm just wondering what happened with the pizzeria during that craziness that we went through.
Sure. I mean, we had to shut down temporarily. We started to do a pizza kit. We called it Gracie's Pizza Kit, and that's my niece, Gracie. And I think at the time she was like 2 years old, and we would give her like a little pizza kit. So we did like a fresh dough, a cheese, and a sauce. And I think we were allowed to do takeout. So we really survived a lot on the takeout and the pizza kits.
But it must have been kind of scary times when you're basically, people aren't allowed to come in. Like, I mean, you could go to an alcohol shop. Well, I'm talking about Poland, but I assume it's everywhere else. You can have an alcohol shop. You can have like, Amazon, all these big stores, and they put a big glass in front of you, and just you still handle the stuff. But people in the restaurants, that was dangerous. Like, so, it was terrible because I know a lot of companies, they closed. The restaurants especially, they got decimated.
Yeah, I think it was a scary time for our world. I mean, between people being sick, being really nervous and scared for older people or people who had immune issues. And then on top of that, your business. Like, I know as a marketing agency at that time, I think we lost half our clients not because, we were doing poorly, but because they had to close down shop. There were certain industries that were just devastated by that. And we had to really move quickly as far as like, okay, what can we do? Because there were some other industries that were flourishing. Like we had an RV company. Well, the RV company, we ended up doing a collaboration with the hospital where they would rent the RVs to the hospital. So then the doctors and the medical staff had a safe place to go that was sanitized and clean during the epidemic.
And like with your own kind of marketing, I think 18 years, I'm not sure. So what have you noticed? Because obviously TikTok was a new thing. Is it like, how often do you have to reinvent yourself? Because, everything keeps changing and, you think you have like whether you're doing Facebook ads or Google ads, they just change something overnight and something that was working perfect just stops. So like, how often do you have to reinvent yourself in marketing?
Literally every day. I mean, that's what it feels like. There's been such an evolution. We went from like being able to throw up a website and the website would just rank to that all changing to the evolution of social media. And then AI has really been a big thing that has really changed so much. So, I mean, it's ever changing. Also right now, video is huge. It's been huge for, a minute, but that's one of the things. So it's a constant looking at like, okay, what is the next thing here? What's the next thing we're going to be doing, and being able to, I guess, anticipate those needs and make those changes.
And like with a kind of regulation then that comes on, because I was just talking to somebody about marketing recently, and it's like, sometimes they're blocking people and they're censoring people and stuff like that, and then you're trying to go on different platforms and like, I don't know what your experience, but what I've seen is, I think sometimes they're just throwing the digits. When you're putting marketing dollars into it, they're just making it look like you got the numbers that they said, because you don't see interaction and stuff. So it's very easy to know when you've got genuine ones, because they're commenting, they're like, whatever, depending on the marketing, whether you're doing sales. And just curious, is that what you're seeing as well?
I mean, to a degree, yeah. And the other thing too is that the estimation of effort that someone has to get from point A to point B is very off from the reality of what it takes to get from point A to point B. It's 10 times the work. You have competitors. There's so many different areas that you can market, and you have to really figure out what your niche is and really be able to read data and know what's working. Like, I can run a Facebook ad, but am I selling books? That's the result. Is like, what is the result of what you're doing?
And what we're doing, because I done a planner and I did the ad with Amazon. All it did is to cost me money. You think that they know what they're doing to get the ad in front of people. So sometimes it doesn't work out. So I know that when you started this, you were a single mother, and which is inspirational that you were able to do that. And I just like to know your journey, like, because it's difficult to start a business, but also when you've got a child and that you're on your own. And so how did you navigate? Because there's a lot of people that are in the kind of, they're thinking of starting something, and maybe they're single parent as well. I mean, I'm single parent. I got equal custody, so I know what it's like. I kind of, but how I actually do it is I block up my calendar. So when I'm with my son, so the days that I don't have my son, that's when I do most of my podcasts and stuff like that. But when you started that, just how you navigated it.
Absolutely. So, I mean, in the very beginning, it was definitely scary. I had a toddler. I was trying to figure it all out. And I had a couple of different people that I had done work for that hired me on a freelance basis to do, just some basic marketing, some reputation management, some writing. And from there, that expanded, and I took on some more clients, and then I brought someone on. And then eventually I thought, okay, I think I'm going to officially open a business here. And then over the years, that business grew and grew, and there's definitely been a lot of things that have been really difficult, a lot of barriers, but it's one of those things where you have to stay positive and you have to keep going, and you have to know that, like, anything worthwhile, you're going to experience those things. But my most important, responsibility has always been my daughter. It'll always be my daughter. So I needed to be able to create my life to where I could be there for her. I could, show up, and I would be, if she had to play at school, if she had something that she needed me there for, I was like, my daughter's my priority here. So it just ended up working out for the best, but it wasn't without a lot of hard work, a lot of years of hard work.
But I think, because sometimes you hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I can't do it, I can't." But you just make it work, and you just kind of go, like, for me, my son's priority, and I make sure that everything I'm doing, and it's not that like, I've got 6 shows and I've got other businesses, and you still get it done. You just you just don't be fluffing around the place, and that's kind of one of the things that sometimes people, they do the wrong things, or they think they're busy and they're just doing the wrong things with all the social media, because I think it used to be called Hootsuite, where it posts all the different ones. Like, I used to use some of them, but I just found that it was doing more damage than good, so I stopped using them. And they kind of, each one, just one, because there's probably 50 other, there seems to be about 50 different things for every platform. Is there any good ones, or what's your thoughts on actually using a system that's blasting it out to the 5 or 10 different social media platforms?
I mean, I like Social Pilot, but what I really like the most is that you can storyboard and you can kind of see and look at what you're, sending out. I'll be honest with you, for the restaurant and also for my book stuff, I just do them organically. Like, I have the book TikTok, and I read out loud a page of the book every day, and then I post it. So, like, it's just stuff like that. But I usually just do that because I'm like, okay, what can I creatively do today? Or I'll go to a pizzeria and I'll film a reel, because I like to talk about other pizza stories, because there's so many people all over the world that have started pizzerias that are just, like, very authentic and family owned, and just very beautiful stories of their struggle, but also how they've overcome this and have these successful businesses.
Everybody aspires to have a video that goes viral. I mean, you've got millions. I think you said 64 million. What tips? Not just pizza, because I mean, everyone's got their own kind of different business, but they're all hoping, and they do a video and sometimes it gets 3 views or it gets 0 views, and it just is disheartening. Like, I remember I had one girl, I forget the name of the kind one, I think it was, and it got millions, and she could never replicate it. She tried the But just with your experience, I mean, you've done it not just once, you've done it a few times. Any kind of tips on what you have found that you have to include to make it have any chance of going viral?
Well, first of all, you have to make a lot of content. If you notice the people who are really successful, who have a lot of viral content, they have a ton of content and they consistently produce content. And it's not just on one platform. I've been looking at Medium authors. These people have hundreds of articles. TikTok, I mean, there's people that have thousands. I mean, YouTube videos, there's thousands. So that's the first thing. The second thing is read your data and your analytics. And if you see, one of the things for us, we did a bunch of videos of the place and the different things we make. And we started doing the cutting videos. Well, the cutting videos were outperforming by 100 times. So that was the winner. So based on what people like, you have to if you can make a whole series of what people like, then that's what you want to do. But look at your data, look at your analytics, what's your best performer? And then how can you replicate that best performing video and just make a lot of those?
With TikTok, because obviously that's one that's been extremely successful for you. What I start doing, because I mean I created a lot of shorts for interviews and things like that, and then I was starting off, I was putting up 3, and then I do another 3 later or whatever, and I find sometimes if it wasn't the same day, the second 3 wouldn't get it. So I was like, is 3 the amount? And then you'd hear some people saying 3, and then one day I was just this thing, so I just said I'd try 5. No, I've realized if I've got 20 shorts, I put them all up at once, and they all get around the same. But if I put something up before the next day, it gets 3 or 5, so it doesn't work.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah. It's strange. And to be honest with you, I look, and they could all have 250, and then one gets 4,000 or whatever, or and another one got 13.5. But I get a load of community strikes. So I've I don't know, 10 or something. But it's for silly things. It's not as if I'm kind of saying something medical or something like that. There's things that you just don't expect.
Yeah.
And I don't know, have you ever got a strike or whatever? But it's impossible with all of these platforms. They go check the regulations. I mean, I got one recently on YouTube removed, and they said because we were talking about medical misinformation, we didn't talk about that. We were talking about sovereignty. We were actually, and they gave the point when it was taken down. We were just talking about Joe Rogan. We were talking about Russell Brand. And you cannot write to him and say exactly, hey, we know. No, it does it automatically, and it says, we've reviewed it when you make an appeal, and it goes out. So, I mean, not just with you, maybe you've experienced some of that, but so obviously some of your clients would have, there's no way to navigate that, really. It's just kind of living in hope, I suppose, yeah?
I mean, we do so many, interview videos, and we have the stock music in the background, and we pay for the stock license, but in so many cases, it's this is a copyright violation for the music, and I'm like, no. We have a stock license. This is what we do, and I have to appeal it. So it is one of those things where it's the video that you were talking about that I have on the website. When I initially put that one, I think it was on TikTok. TikTok was like, no, you can't have this on here because of the music. And I was like, well, the music is licensed. We pay for the license, but they would not let me. Took all the sound off the video, so I couldn't use the video. It's on TikTok and I have it on Instagram, but it was not going on TikTok. Or I'm sorry, it's on YouTube and it's on Instagram, but it was not going on TikTok at all. It's not there now. I would have to do a voiceover, an original voiceover, and then use the music from TikTok to get that one published. Yeah.
I remember my son was in a school play and I got a copyright from that because it was whatever music did in the background. And you're like, what?
Yeah. It's funny. And I think a lot of this is it's automatic. It's an AI powered thing. And so you're going to get ones sometimes I get ones that are so strange and I'm like, no, it's not. Usually when I appeal them, it's okay. Except for the one TikTok video, it was just, there was no way around that one. Because I tried to upload it 8 times and it was like, nope. After the 8th time, I was like,
especially for that one, because it's such a brilliant video. Why?
Yeah, it's my favorite video, but that's the name of the game. I guess we're playing on their playground.
No, exactly. Unfortunately, they own it. They determine they determine the rules. And just finally, like because everybody kind of has their fit. Like TikTok obviously works brilliant for you, and sometimes people it's the YouTube or whatever. What's your kind of when you're talking to people? Because sometimes people are trying to be on the 10 of them. Yeah. Like I see which ones work for me, and I still post on say X or something because it's so easy with some of the things. You just press a button and it's there, and I do it just for the sake. But you don't know, because a load of the times I don't get nothing. But with the crypto one, sometimes the guest or whatever just kind of tweets it or likes it or whatever, and then all of a sudden it gets massive traction because so like. Whereas if I said it doesn't serve me, but you just don't know, the same with Instagram, you just don't know, because what happens is when you're dealing with somebody, whether it's a client or whatever, it's kind of related to, so you might think Instagram doesn't work for me, but then you could have somebody on, or you could be liaising with someone that their Instagram is massive and they could love what you've just done, maybe it's a short or whatever, and they reshare it, which in turn then gets people going, oh, I like the style. So it's kind of, I think it's the same kind of thing, really. Like, we don't really want to be doing it. I mean, anytime I ask a lot of the guys, do you like it? Well, nobody really likes it. I mean, it's like TikTok can be fun just looking at it, but at the end of the day, you kind of have to do a lot of research looking at it. You don't get there by just going on it and just posting and not going in. They kind of, I've learned that with YouTube, actually. It was my son was on my account on the telly watching something, and he started giving all likes, and I never do that. I was just, I just enjoy something. I never think of giving it a like, even though I'm always asking people on the podcast, give me a like or whatever. But I saw my subscribers was just going through the roof.
Wow.
And I realized it's because you were engaged. And so now I'm making it a habit when I'm watching something. Obviously, if I enjoy, I don't give it thumbs up. I don't want to do the negativity. It's like, if I like it, I give it thumbs up. But it's like, I don't think a lot of people are kind of aware of how their algorithms work as well with that.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, I was trying, and I'm not that good at it now because there's so many, but I was trying to answer all, if not most of my comments on TikTok. But then the comments got to be so many thousand that I just couldn't do it. But now, I try on Facebook and Instagram to answer the comments. Like, I just started the TikTok for the book. And what's been doing the best, funny enough, is just me reading a page of the book, which is very strange, but maybe people like to be read to. So, but that's so I try to answer those, or on Facebook, I have the video that you talked about, and I get a ton of comments on that video, and I try to answer all those because people are telling me they're from Abruzzo, or their family is, or their family opened a pizzeria. So I really love to engage with those people and talk to them about that, even though every so often I get someone I think you always get complainers there's always a percentage of complainers, you mispronounce this, or I don't like the rolling pin, or just funny, I'm okay.
I had one recently, I think it was on Facebook, and it was they gave such a nasty comment on, it was about raw milk, and they said, I've reported it all this, and I just replied, thanks Karen, and they said, I've reported that comment as well.
Yeah, no,
but I've learned you don't engage with the negative. I usually hide them or remove them, whatever. But what you mentioned with the thing, people don't realize that when they're trying to build all these platforms, you can outsource that, but they will never know when somebody writes something that's meaningful or whatever. They could say they're from the area and they're trying to engage, because then they get to know it, and then they could become a customer or whatever it is, or they'll just go in and they'll watch a lot of videos. But it's a lot of sweat equity when you want. I mean, I do. I go into all my Facebook groups and stuff like that, and I'm checking the comments, and I'm, if somebody gives a nice comment, I give a thumbs up or a heart or whatever. And but I don't think people realized it's not just content creation. It's actually, there's probably 5 times more time in engaging properly to actually make it grow. But it does work. It pays off when you actually genuinely do engage with your followers.
Yeah, I mean, it's communication, it's building a network, and that is the name of the game. I mean, even on LinkedIn, I use my LinkedIn mostly for the marketing, but I was able to build I think I have around 20,000 connections on there, but just from connecting with people. So the more people that you connect with, the more you get your message out.
I'm just curious, because I used to kind of accept everybody at one stage, because it was LinkedIn or whatever. But with the podcasting, it's you're accepting, and then it's a pitch, and it's not no thanks. It's a 50 message pitch, and that's on a lot of platforms. And I'm finding like, I don't know who's a genuine follower because it's impossible to know. And sometimes, like, you know, so you don't want to say no because they could be real. And then they're just kind of, so that's a hard one to navigate. I haven't figured that one out because at some stage it just annoys me so much. I just refuse all of them. But I don't want to do that because if somebody really loves what I'm doing and wants to follow me, I'm happy to connect with them because then I see people share my podcasts and just, you know, making comments and stuff like that. But I presume there's no way really to navigate that. It's just eventually when you spot them, you just remove them faster.
I mean, it's the technology of LinkedIn automation. So I'll go in there, I'll have, 20 requests and I'll just approve. And then I'll hear my computer ding, 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 because they're all on automations. Now, if there's certain ones, I just usually say, thanks for reaching out. No, thank you. Unless I'm interested in it. But ultimately, I do like the connection. And I feel like if I share something on there that, the people that I'm connected to will see it. But it is an interesting time for LinkedIn.
Thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. You might let people know where they can find you.
Sure. Website is astoryabouttpizza.com. They can go to pretty much any handle, DARCS Pizza. It's DARCS Pizza. And or anything with the story about pizza. Those are mine.
Make sure I put the links both in the audio and the video. Thank you very much, Eric.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. That's all for the Speaking Podcast. You'll find other episodes on speakingpodcast.com. Give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, share with your friends, and comment. Let us know what's your favourite pizza. Until next week, take care. So I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. As mentioned at the start, you can find my 6 podcasts on roycullen.com or scan the QR code if you're looking to start a podcast or do a podcasting tour, help with that. Also, if you're looking for a virtual assistant, we also have that service. And you can help the show by visiting the store, supporting our sponsors, or making a donation. Until next week, take care.